I'm 53 years old, and I thought I knew exactly who I was. Amanda Hall, herbalist, divorced 5 years, content with my apothecary on Marshall Street and my quiet evenings reading botanical journals. That certainty lasted until a Thursday night in late October, when a stranger's hand brushed mine in the darkness of the Strand Theatre over seat C-14, and something inside me cracked wide open. The mix-up was simple enough. We'd both been sold the same seat for the 7 o'clock showing. I'd arrived first, settled in with my coat folded on my lap, when she appeared in the aisle, ticket in hand, confusion crossing her face. "I think there's been a mistake," she said. Her voice had this quality, warm and textured like honey over gravel. I glanced at her ticket, then mine. Same seat number. The theater was packed, no other options visible in the dim light. "We could share the armrest," I heard myself say. She laughed, a genuine sound that made my chest tighten inexplicably. Deal. For 2 hours I sat hyper-aware of every accidental touch, her shoulder against mine when she leaned forward, her breath catching during tense scenes, the scent of her perfume, something citrus and clean. I couldn't have told you what happened in that film if my life depended on it. When the lights came up, I finally saw her clearly. Blonde hair falling past her shoulders, green eyes that seemed to hold secrets, maybe 30-something with the kind of confidence I'd never possessed even at that age. She was studying me too, and the way her gaze traveled across my face made my pulse hammer. "I'm so sorry about the confusion," she said as we shuffled toward the lobby. "The app must have glitched." "It's fine, really." But she kept apologizing, following me through the crowd, until we stood under the marquee lights on the sidewalk. November wind cut through my jacket. She wrapped her arms around herself, and I noticed she wasn't wearing nearly enough layers for the dropping temperature. "I'm Rose," she said. "Rose Morgan. Amanda Hall." "Amanda." She repeated my name like she was testing how it felt in her mouth. "This might sound strange, but do you believe in signs?" "Signs?" Two strangers, same seat, same night. Rose pulled a business card from her pocket. "I'm a sound healing therapist. If you ever need to relax, release tension, whatever. First session's free." Her fingers brushed mine as she handed over the card. It was barely a second of contact, but heat shot up my arm like I'd touched something electric. I jerked back slightly, saw surprise flicker in her eyes, then something else. Recognition, maybe. "Thank you," I managed. "I mean it. Come find me." She smiled, and there was an openness in it that felt dangerous somehow. "I have a feeling we were supposed to meet tonight." Then she walked away, disappearing into the Shreveport evening, and I stood there holding her card like it might burn through my palm. My hands were shaking. That didn't make sense. Nothing about my reaction made sense. I drove home in a daze, parked behind my building, climbed 3 flights to my apartment. Inside, I set her card on the kitchen counter and stared at it for 20 minutes. Rose Morgan, sound healing and vibrational therapy. An address 2 blocks from my shop. I'd been married to a man for 28 years. Divorced him when I finally admitted we'd become strangers sharing a mortgage. Since then, I'd dated occasionally, briefly, without enthusiasm. I'd accepted that passion wasn't something I was built for, that my life would be measured in medicinal herbs and comfortable routines. But standing in my kitchen at 53, I couldn't stop thinking about green eyes and the way Rose had said my name, about the heat that had flooded through me from a simple touch, about how I'd wanted her to keep talking just so I could listen to that voice a little longer. I picked up the card again, turned it over. On the back, she'd written in quick script, "Sometimes the universe puts people in our path exactly when we need them." Damn it. I put the card in my wallet, went to bed, and dreamed of hands I couldn't see, and a voice that wrapped around me like silk. 2 weeks passed before I could admit to myself what I was doing. I stood outside Rose's studio on Marshall Street, my shoulder genuinely aching from lifting boxes at the apothecary, telling myself this was about pain management, nothing more. The building was old brick, sandwiched between a vintage bookstore and a closed-down laundromat. A hand-painted sign read Resonance Healing Studio in flowing letters. Through the window, I could see soft lighting and what looked like cushions arranged on the floor. I almost turned around 3 times before pushing the door open. Rose was with a client, her voice drifting from behind a curtained area. That same warm, textured quality, speaking in low tones about breathing and release. I stood in the small waiting area, surrounded by plants and crystals, my heart doing things that had nothing to do with my shoulder. Amanda. I turned. She'd pulled back the curtain, and her smile was immediate, genuine. She wore loose linen pants and a fitted tank top, hair pulled back in a casual bun. Somehow she looked more beautiful than I remembered. "You came," she said. "My shoulder. From work." Of course. But something flickered in her eyes, like she heard what I wasn't saying. "Give me 10 minutes to finish up." I waited, pretending to read a pamphlet about sound frequencies, while my pulse refused to settle. When her client left, a middle-aged man who looked deeply relaxed, Rose gestured me behind the curtain. The space was intimate, dim. Various bowls and instruments arranged around a cushioned mat on the floor. Candles flickered, casting shadows that made everything feel dreamlike. "Lie down," she said softly. "On your back." I did, feeling absurdly vulnerable as she knelt beside me. This close, I could see gold flecks in her green eyes, a small scar on her chin. "Where's the pain?" "Left shoulder. Sometimes it radiates down my arm." Her hands hovered near my temples, not quite touching. "I'm going to start with your head, then work down. The sound vibrations will help release tension you're holding. Just breathe." She struck a singing bowl, and the tone filled the small space, resonating through my bones. Then her hands moved closer, still not touching, but I felt heat radiating from her palms. My eyes closed involuntarily. Another bowl, deeper this time. The vibrations seemed to sink into my chest. Rose's hands traveled down, hovering over my shoulders, and when she finally made contact, pressing gently into the knot of muscle, I gasped. "Too much?" "No. It's good." But good didn't cover it. Her fingers worked the tension with practiced skill, and each touch sent ripples through me that had nothing to do with therapeutic healing. I realized I was holding my breath. "Relax, Amanda. Let it go." The session lasted 40 minutes. By the end, my shoulder did feel better, but I was wound tight in entirely different ways. When I sat up, Rose was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "Better?" "Yes. Thank you. There's coffee next door, if you have time." This was where I should have made an excuse, thanked her, paid, left. Instead, I heard myself say, "I have time." The coffee shop was nearly empty at 3 in the afternoon. We sat by the window with lukewarm lattes, and Rose asked about my work. I told her about the apothecary, about growing herbs in my rooftop garden, about how I'd learned the trade from my grandmother. "And you?" I asked. "How does someone become a sound healer?" Long story. She wrapped her hands around her cup. Short version? I was in a bad place 3 months ago. 10-year relationship with someone who never really saw me. Derek was comfortable with the version of me he wanted, not who I actually was. What happened? I left. Packed my things while he was at work, moved into a studio apartment, started rebuilding. She looked directly at me. Best decision I ever made. Something in her tone suggested layers I wasn't privy to. The way she said who I actually was felt weighted with meaning. Starting over at 32, she continued. Scary as hell. But I'm finally breathing right, you know? Finally honest about what I need. What do you need? The question came out more intimate than I'd intended. Rose's eyes held mine, and the moment stretched between us like something tangible. Connection, she said quietly. Real connection. With someone who doesn't make me edit myself. My coffee had gone cold. Outside, Shreveport traffic rumbled past. Inside this small bubble of space, I felt like I was standing on the edge of something vast and terrifying. I should go, I said, but I didn't move. Come back, Rose said. For another session, your shoulder will need follow-up. We both knew that wasn't what she was really saying. I nodded anyway, paid for the session at the counter, and left with her card feeling heavier in my wallet than it had any right to. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the way her hands had felt on my skin, the warmth in her voice, how she'd looked at me like she was reading a story written in a language only she understood. At 53, I thought I'd figured out who I was, but Rose Morgan was making me question everything. Rose started showing up at my apothecary twice a week, always with questions that felt like excuses. How much valerian root for sleep? Whether chamomile really helped with anxiety? If I had anything for tension headaches? Each time, her eyes would linger on my face while I explained dosages and preparation methods. My hands would tremble measuring herbs, hyper-aware of her presence in my small shop. Taylor noticed everything. My business partner had known me for 15 years, watched me through my divorce, never missed a detail. "Who is she?" Taylor asked one afternoon, after Rose left with a bag of lavender. "A client, sort of." Amanda Taylor leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "I've seen you interact with hundreds of clients. You don't look at them like that." "Like what?" "Like you're drowning and she's oxygen." I turned away, pretending to organize jars that didn't need organizing. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." Taylor's voice softened. "And that's okay. Actually, it's about damn time. I'm 53 years old." "So what? You think there's an expiration date on figuring yourself out?" She touched my shoulder gently. "I've been waiting 20 years for you to stop hiding from what you've never admitted, even to yourself." My throat tightened. "I was married to a man you loved like a brother, who you had pleasant, obligatory intimacy with twice a month." Taylor had never been one for sugarcoating. "When's the last time someone made your hands shake, Amanda?" I didn't answer because we both knew the truth. Never. Not until green eyes and blonde hair walked into a theater 2 months ago. That night, Rose showed up 15 minutes before closing. I was doing inventory in the back room when the bell chimed. I came out to find her holding a bottle of wine and wearing that smile that made my chest ache. "Thought you might need company," she said. "I have inventory. I'll help." So we sat on the floor between shelves of dried herbs, drinking cheap red wine from coffee mugs, and Rose asked questions about every plant while sitting too close. Our knees touched. Her shoulder brushed mine when she reached for the bottle. "This one," she said, holding up a jar of rose hips. "Tell me about this one." "High in vitamin C. Good for immunity, skin health." "Rose hips." She smiled. "My namesake." "Is Rose your real name?" "Rosemary. But everyone calls me Rose." She set down the jar, turned to face me fully. "What about Amanda? Anyone ever call you something different?" "My grandmother called me Mandy. No one else." "Can I?" The question felt loaded with implications I wasn't ready to examine. "Why?" "Because I want something that's just between us." The wine had made everything soft and hazy. Rose's face was inches from mine, and I could see every detail, the way her pupils dilated, in the dim light, a faint dusting of freckles across her nose, the curve of her mouth. "Mandy," she said quietly, testing it. "I like how that sounds." My heart was doing that thing again, that wild hammering that made no sense. Rose reached up and tucked a strand of my hair behind my ear, her fingers grazing my cheek. The touch lasted maybe 2 seconds, but heat flooded through me so intensely I forgot how to breathe. "You feel it too," she whispered. "Not a question." "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." Her hand was still near my face, hovering. "I've been coming here twice a week because I can't stop thinking about you, about what it would be like to really know you, to touch you properly, instead of these accidental moments that make my whole body ache." I should have stood up, should have created distance. Instead, I sat frozen while Rose moved closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume and the wine on her breath. "Tell me to leave," she said. "I can't." "Tell me you don't feel this." "I can't do that either." Something shifted in her expression, triumph mixed with tenderness. Her thumb brushed across my bottom lip, barely there, but I gasped like she'd burned me. "I'm 20 years younger than you," she said. "I just got out of a long relationship. I have no idea what I'm doing most days, but when I'm near you, everything makes sense." "Rose, I know you're scared. I know this is new territory." Her forehead almost touched mine. "But I'm patient. I can wait while you figure out what you want." "What if I never figure it out?" "You already know, Mandy. You're just not ready to say it out loud yet." We sat there, suspended in possibility, until my phone buzzed with a reminder about locking up. The spell broke. Rose pulled back. smiled that devastating smile. "I should let you finish," she said. She stood, gathered her coat, headed for the door. At the threshold she turned back. "For what it's worth, I've never felt like this before either. Not with Derek, not with anyone." Her eyes held mine. "So we can be terrified together." Then she was gone, and I sat on the floor surrounded by herbs and half-finished inventory, my lips still tingling from where her thumb had touched, understanding with absolute clarity that my life had just split into before and after. Taylor was right. I'd been hiding for 53 years. But Rose Morgan was making it impossible to hide anymore. The November rain started Thursday afternoon and didn't stop. By 7, it was coming down in sheets, drumming against the apothecary windows while I tried to focus on closing procedures. Rose was supposed to meet me for dinner, but I'd been planning to cancel. Tell her I was sick, make some excuse that would give me space to think. Instead, when she appeared at my door soaked through, hair plastered to her face, I let her in without a word. "Forgot my umbrella," she said, laughing. "Actually, I didn't forget. I just didn't care." I locked the door behind her, flipped the sign to closed. We stood in the dim shop, rain creating a wall of sound around us, and the air felt charged with something inevitable. "You're drenched. Are you going to cancel on me?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Because I saw it in your text. You were looking for an excuse." "Rose." "I don't want excuses, Mandy." She stepped closer, water dripping onto my floor. "I want honesty. Tell me you don't want this and I'll leave. For real this time. No more showing up at your shop." My mouth went dry. "I can't tell you that." "Then what can you tell me?" Everything I'd spent 2 weeks denying rushed to the surface. I'm scared. I don't understand what's happening to me. I've never looked at a woman and felt like this before. Felt like what? Like I'm coming apart. Like every time you're near me, I can't breathe right. The words tumbled out. I was married for almost 30 years. I thought I knew exactly who I was. Rose's eyes searched my face. And now? I lie awake thinking about you. About your hands, your voice, the way you look at me like you can see things I've kept buried my whole life. What things? That I've never felt real desire before. That every intimate moment with my ex-husband was me going through motions pretending, my voice cracked, that maybe I've been lying to myself about what I actually need. The rain pounded harder. Rose reached up slowly, giving me time to pull away, and cupped my face with both hands. Her palms were cold and wet against my skin. "Have you ever wondered," she said quietly, "what it would be like to kiss a woman?" Yes. The admission felt like falling. Since the night I met you. Just wondered? I've thought about nothing else. Something fierce flashed in her eyes. I spent 30 years not wondering. Dated men because that's what was expected. Stayed with Derek because leaving meant admitting I'd been living the wrong life. Her thumbs stroked my cheekbones. But that was before you. Before a 53-year-old herbalist with gray eyes made me feel things I didn't know were possible. I don't know what I'm doing. Neither do I. She moved closer, close enough that I could feel her breath. But I know I want to kiss you. I've wanted it since that theater, since every time you've looked at me like you are right now. How am I looking at you? Like you're starving, and I'm the first real meal you've ever seen. My hands came up instinctively, gripping her waist through her wet shirt. She inhaled sharply. "Tell me yes," Rose whispered. "Or tell me to leave." "Yes." She kissed me then, and the world narrowed to the taste of rain on her lips, and the softness I'd never known I craved. Her mouth moved against mine tentatively at first, then deeper when I made a sound low in my throat. I'd been kissed hundreds of times in my life, but this was different. This was discovering a language I hadn't known existed. Rose's fingers tangled in my hair. I pulled her closer, 21 years of age difference disappearing in the heat building between us. She kissed like she was claiming something, like she'd been waiting for this as long as I had. When we finally broke apart, both gasping, she pressed her forehead to mine. "Oh," I breathed. "Yeah." Her laugh was shaky. "That's what I thought too." I was trembling. My whole body felt awakened, nerve endings firing in ways that terrified and thrilled me. Rose's hands steadied me, one cupping the back of my neck, the other resting over my racing heart. Too much? She asked. Not enough. This time when she kissed me, I met her with equal hunger, months of denial burning away. My back hit the counter, her body pressed against mine, all soft curves and heat. I'd never felt this wanted, never understood that desire could be this consuming. We broke apart again, both breathing hard. The rain had softened to a steady patter. I should probably go, Rose said, but she didn't move. Probably. Before we do something you're not ready for, what if I'm ready? Her eyes darkened. Mandy, I've waited this long. I can wait longer. As long as you need. She kissed my forehead gentle. Because when we do this, really do this, I want you absolutely certain. And if I'm never certain, you will be. She stepped back, creating space I immediately missed. Because that kiss told me everything I needed to know. You've been waiting your whole life for this, for someone who makes you feel real. She was right. Standing there in my shop, lips swollen, heart racing, I felt more alive than I had in 53 years. Rose grabbed her jacket, headed for the door. At the threshold she turned back, that devastating smile playing at her lips. Sweet dreams, Mandy. I have a feeling they're going to be interesting. Then she was gone, leaving me alone with the rain and the ghost of her touch and the absolute certainty that everything had changed. The smoke alarm shattered my sleep at 2:17 in the morning. I bolted upright, confused, until the acrid smell registered, and I heard shouting in the hallway. Fire! I grabbed my phone and keys, yanked on shoes, stumbled to my door. The hallway was thick with smoke, visibility maybe 10 feet. People were streaming toward the stairwell, coughing, some still in pajamas. It's the second floor, someone yelled. Get out now. I started down the stairs with the crowd, then heard it. A voice, weak and scared, coming from apartment 3C. Help. Someone please. Mrs. Chen, the elderly woman who'd lived there for 30 years. I turned back against the flow of people, covering my mouth with my shirt. The smoke was worse near her door. Through the haze, I saw a figure already there, pounding on the wood. Mrs. Chen, it's Rose. Open the door. Rose. My heart lurched for reasons that had nothing to do with the fire. I can't. The old woman's voice came through. The lock is stuck. Rose saw me then, her face smudged with ash, wearing only a tank top and sweatpants. Mandy, what are you doing? Get out! Not without her. We both hit the door together. Once, twice. On the third impact, the old lock gave and we stumbled inside. Mrs. Chen was by her window, frail and shaking. Rose grabbed her arm while I took the other, and we half carried her toward the stairs. The flames were visible now through the smoke, crawling up from the apartment below, orange and hungry. Heat pressed against us like a living thing. My lungs burned with each breath. Keep moving, Rose commanded, her voice cutting through panic. Almost there. We made it to the first floor landing as the sprinkler system finally engaged, drenching us in cold water. Outside, firefighters were arriving, sirens splitting the night. They took Mrs. Chen, wrapped her in blankets, started checking vitals. Rose and I stood on the sidewalk in the chaos, both soaked from sprinklers and ash, watching our building burn. My hands were shaking again, but this time from adrenaline. You live in my building, I said stupidly. 3F. 3 doors from you. She wiped soot from her face. Have for 2 months. All this time. Yeah. Her laugh was slightly hysterical. I kept meaning to mention it. Then it felt weird that I hadn't mentioned it sooner. Neighbors milled around us. Fire trucks blocked the street. Red Cross volunteers were setting up a shelter in the community center across the road. Everything I owned was in that building, possibly burning. Mrs. Chen, okay? I asked a paramedic. Smoke inhalation, but she'll be fine. He looked at us. You two should get checked out. Rose waved him off. We're good. But we weren't. We were standing in the cold November night, watching firefighters battle flames in our home, and the enormity of it hit me all at once. I started shaking harder. Hey, Rose's arms came around me without hesitation. We're okay. We made it out. I pressed my face into her shoulder, breathing in smoke and fear and the solid reality of her. I thought about you. When I heard the alarm, my first thought was whether you were safe." She pulled back enough to look at me, rain and sprinkler water dripping from her hair. "I live 3 doors down from you and I never knew. Never ran into you in the hallway. The universe has a twisted sense of timing. Or perfect timing." Her thumb brushed across my cheek, wiping away ash. "We could have died tonight. Any of us." The words hung between us, heavy with implication. Life was short. Life was fragile. Life was too damn brief to keep hiding from what I wanted. "Come here," I said, and kissed her right there on the sidewalk with firefighters working and neighbors watching, and my world potentially burning behind us. She made a surprised sound, then melted into me. This kiss was different from the one in my shop, more desperate. More real, tasting of smoke and fear, and the fierce need to feel alive after coming so close to death. When we broke apart, her eyes were bright. "So we're doing this? Really doing this?" "I nearly lost everything tonight." My voice was rough from smoke, including you, and I realized I have nothing left to lose by choosing this, by choosing you. Even though I'm 21 years younger? Even though it means admitting things about yourself you've spent 53 years not admitting? Especially because of that. Rose's smile was incandescent despite the circumstances. She took my hand, laced our fingers together, and we stood like that while our building smoldered and the Red Cross directed us toward shelter. In the community center, wrapped in thin blankets that smelled of storage, drinking terrible coffee, Rose sat close enough that our thighs touched. Mrs. Chen was across the room, already asleep on a cot. Other neighbors clustered in groups, some crying, some on phones. "My studio," Rose said quietly. "Everything I rebuilt after leaving Derek. My singing bowls, my life. We'll rebuild again." "We?" She looked at me. "That's a big word, Mandy." "I know, and I did. I knew exactly what I was saying. I don't want to do this slow anymore. I don't want to waste time being scared. What do you want? You. All of you. Whatever that looks like." Rose leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat like that until dawn broke over Shreveport, painting the sky pink and gold over the ruins of our building, over the beginning of whatever came next. Rose's studio apartment became our refuge while the building underwent repairs, insurance paperwork, salvage crews, estimates that kept changing. All of it faded to background noise the moment her door closed behind us. Her place was small, maybe 500 square feet, but filled with light from large windows. Singing bowls lined one wall. Crystals caught morning sun. Plants crowded every surface. One bedroom, one bathroom, a kitchen the size of a closet. "It's not much," she said, setting down the bag of clothes I'd bought that morning. "It's perfect." And it was, because she was there. The first week we danced around each other carefully. She took the bed, insisted I take it while she used the couch. I lasted 2 nights before the absurdity struck me. We'd kissed, we'd declared intentions, yet here we were, sleeping in separate spaces like strangers. On the 3rd night, I found her in the kitchen making tea at midnight. Her hair was loose, wearing an oversized shirt, legs bare. Something in my chest tightened. "Can't sleep?" I asked. "Thinking too much." She poured hot water over chamomile, about you, about us, about what we're doing. I moved closer, took the cup from her hands, set it down. "What are we doing?" "I don't know. You tell me." Her eyes searched mine. "You're in my space. We're playing house, but I don't know the rules." "Maybe there aren't rules." "There are always rules, Mandy. Boundaries, lines we don't cross until we're ready." I realized then how much she'd been holding back, giving me space, waiting for signals I hadn't learned how to send yet. What if I'm ready? The question came out steadier than I felt. "Are you?" She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her skin, warm and inviting. "Because once we cross certain lines, there's no going back. And I need you sure. I've never been more sure of anything." Rose's hand came up slowly, fingers tracing my jawline with excruciating gentleness. "I want to kiss you properly. Not in panic, not in public, just you and me and all the time in the world." "Then do it." She kissed me soft at first, testing, then deeper when I sighed into her mouth. Different from before. No urgency, just thorough exploration. Her tongue against mine, her teeth catching my bottom lip. I made a sound I'd never made before, need and want tangled together. When she pulled back, her eyes were dark. Bedroom or I don't care. Just don't stop. She kissed me again, backing me against the counter, and I understood suddenly why people wrote poetry about desire. This ache in my chest, the heat pooling low in my belly, the desperate need for more contact. I'd lived 53 years without knowing this existed. Rose's hands slid under my shirt, palms flat against my ribs. Tell me if I go too fast. You're going too slow. Her laugh vibrated against my neck where she'd started kissing, soft and deliberate. My hands found her hair, tangled in the blonde strands, holding her there. Every nerve ending felt alive. Mandy, she breathed against my skin. We should probably talk about this, about what you want. I want you to stop talking. She pulled back, eyes meeting mine. I'm serious. Have you ever been with a woman before? No. Then we take this slow. We figure it out together. Her thumb brushed across my collarbone. I'm not going anywhere. We have time. But I didn't want time. I wanted her hands on me, wanted to discover what I'd been missing. Instead, Rose kissed my forehead and stepped back, creating space that felt like punishment. Tomorrow, she said, when we're both thinking clearly, when it's not midnight and emotionally charged. I'm thinking clearly now. No, you're not. Neither am I. She took my hand, pressed it to her racing heart. Feel that? I want this as much as you do, but I want it right. I want you to wake up tomorrow with no regrets. She was right. I knew she was right. But standing in her tiny kitchen, my body still humming from her touch, clarity felt vastly overrated. That night, I moved my things to her bedroom. We lay in darkness, carefully not touching, both breathing too fast. The tension was exquisite torture. Rose? Yeah? Thank you. For being patient. Her hand found mine in the dark, fingers lacing together. I've waited 32 years to feel what I feel with you. I can wait a little longer to do it right. Morning came with November sun streaming through windows. I woke to find Rose watching me, propped on one elbow, expression soft. Hi, she said. Hi. Still want this? In daylight? When you're thinking clearly? I rolled toward her, closing the distance. More than anything. Then we're doing this, for real. She smiled, that devastating smile. You and me. Whatever that means. It means I'm telling people. Starting with Taylor. Your business partner? My best friend, who's been waiting years for me to figure myself out. I touched Rose's face, marveling that I was allowed to. She'll love you. Because I'm so lovable? Because you make me brave. Rose kissed me then, slow and deep, and I tasted forever in it. No panic, no fear, just the two of us figuring out how to build something real from the ashes of who we used to be. I called Taylor that afternoon, said the words out loud for the first time while Rose held my other hand. I'm with someone, a woman, Rose, and I've never been happier. Taylor's laugh was warm through the phone. About damn time, Amanda. Bring her by the shop. I want to meet the woman who finally woke you up. When I hung up, Rose pulled me into her arms, and we stood in her tiny kitchen holding each other like we'd discovered something precious and rare, which I suppose we had. 3 weeks into sharing Rose's space, we'd settled into rhythms that felt dangerously domestic. Morning coffee made in silence, her singing bowls at dawn while I read botanical journals, shared dinners on her tiny balcony when weather permitted. But underneath the comfortable routines lived tension neither of us acknowledged. The way she'd catch me watching her. How I'd find excuses to touch her shoulder, her hand, anything. We'd kissed dozens of times, but always stopped before going further. Some invisible line we kept approaching but never crossing. On a Tuesday night, dishes done and rain starting outside, Rose traced lazy patterns on my wrist where we sat on her couch. The touch was absent-minded, like she didn't realize she was doing it. Can I ask you something? Her voice was quiet. Anything. Are you waiting for the right moment, or are you scared? My throat tightened. Both, maybe. What scares you? That I won't know what to do? That I'll disappoint you? The admission felt raw, I've only been with one person, my ex-husband, and that was mechanical at best. What if I'm broken somehow? Rose shifted to face me fully. You're not broken, Mandy. You just never had someone who wanted to really see you, to learn you. And you do? More than anything. Her fingers moved from my wrist to my palm, tracing lines there. But only when you're ready. If that's tonight, or next month, or never, I'm still here. I thought about 53 years of settling. Of intimacy that felt obligatory. Of never understanding why people wrote songs about desire, until green eyes and gentle hands showed me what I'd been missing. I'm ready, I said. I think I've been ready since that night in the rain. Something shifted in Rose's expression, heat mixing with tenderness. Yeah? Yeah. She stood, held out her hand. I took it, let her lead me to the bedroom. My heart was racing, but not from fear, from anticipation, from finally understanding what it meant to want someone completely. Rose closed the door even though we were alone, creating intimacy in the small space. She moved to me slowly, giving me time to change my mind, but I was done with hesitation. I kissed her first this time, deep and claiming, and she responded with a soft sound that went straight through me. Her hands found the hem of my shirt, questioning, and I nodded against her mouth. She lifted it over my head, her breath catching. The lamp cast everything in warm light. Rose's fingers traced my collarbone, down my sternum, reverent. When she kissed my shoulder, I trembled. She explored slowly, learning what made me gasp, where I was sensitive. Her mouth and hands discovering me inch by inch while I came apart under her attention. We undressed each other between kisses, and when she finally settled between my thighs, her touch was patient and knowing, building sensation in waves until I forgot every moment before this one. The pleasure was unlike anything I'd experienced, her attentiveness to my responses making me feel worshipped rather than used, and when release finally came, it crashed through me in devastating ripples that left me breathless and remade. Afterward, I wept, not from sadness but from grief for all the years I'd lived without this, without feeling truly seen and wanted. Rose held me through it, her hand stroking my hair. You okay? I'm 53 years old, I said against her shoulder, and I just discovered what I've been missing my entire life. Better late than never. I pulled back to look at her. Teach me. Show me how to do that for you. Her eyes darkened. Mandy, you don't have to. I want to, please. So she did. Guided my hands and mouth, told me what felt good, made sounds that told me I was learning. And when she came undone beneath me, calling my name like a prayer, I understood that intimacy wasn't about mechanics. It was about paying attention, about caring enough to learn another person's pleasure. We lay tangled afterward, her head on my chest, both of us quiet. That was, I started. Yeah. I didn't know it could be like that. Rose propped herself up, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Like what? Safe. And intense. Both at the same time. I touched her face. Like I could be completely vulnerable and you wouldn't hurt me. Never. She kissed me softly. This is what it's supposed to feel like, Mandy. Connection. Real connection. We fell asleep like that. Her body curved into mine, and I dreamed of nothing because reality had become better than anything my imagination could conjure. Morning came with her alarm. She reached to shut it off, then settled back against me. So, she said, regrets? Only that we waited 3 weeks. Her laugh vibrated through both of us. We can make up for lost time. Is that a promise? Absolutely. We stayed in bed another hour, learning each other again in daylight, and I marveled at how natural this felt. How right. Like I'd been living in black and white for 53 years, and someone had finally turned on the color. Later, making coffee in her kitchen wearing her shirt, Rose came up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist. I could get used to this, she said against my shoulder. Good. Because I'm not going anywhere. Even when your apartment is ready? I turned in her arms. I don't want to go back. I want to stay here, with you. That's a big step. I know, and I did. Moving in together after a few months. But nothing about us had followed normal timelines. Too fast? Rose kissed me, slow and thorough, not fast enough. I've wanted you here permanently since day one. So it was decided. Over terrible coffee and November morning light, we committed to building something real together. No more hiding, no more fear. Just two women who'd found each other at exactly the right time. Derek showed up at Rose's studio on a Thursday afternoon while I was helping her reorganize after the fire. The insurance money had come through, enough to replace equipment. New singing bowls lined the shelves, crystals catching December light. The door chimed, and I looked up to see a man I didn't know but immediately recognized. Tall, conventionally handsome, carrying himself with the confidence of someone used to getting his way. "Rose," he said, ignoring me completely. "We need to talk." She straightened from where she'd been arranging cushions. "Derek, what are you doing here?" "I heard about the fire. Wanted to make sure you were okay." His eyes finally landed on me. "Who's this?" "Amanda Hall, my partner." The word sent warmth through my chest. Partner. She'd said it so easily, claiming me in front of him. Derek's expression shifted, something ugly crossing his face. Partner. Right. So that's what this was about. All those years together and you were just waiting for the right woman to come along? "That's not fair," Rose said quietly. "Air? You left without explanation. Packed up while I was at work like a coward." He stepped further into the studio. "I deserved better than that." "You deserved honesty." Rose moved to stand beside me. "And the honest truth is, I was never fully present with you. I was trying to be someone I wasn't because it was easier than facing who I actually am." "Which is what? A lesbian?" He said it like an accusation. "Which is someone who finally understands what real connection feels like." She took my hand. "Derek, I'm sorry I hurt you, but staying would have hurt us both more." I watched this man I'd never met process the end of his relationship in real time. Part of me felt sympathy. The larger part felt fiercely protective of the woman beside me. "How long?" he asked. "We've been together a few months." "So you left me for her." "I left you for me," Rose said firmly. "Amanda came after. But she showed me what it means to be seen. Really seen. Not just the convenient parts." Derek's jaw tightened. He looked at me again, assessing. "You're what, 20 years older than her?" 21, I said evenly. "Does that matter?" "It matters that you're taking advantage." "Stop." Rose's voice cut sharp. "Amanda isn't taking advantage of anything. If anything, I pursued her. I showed up at her shop. I pushed for this. Because she groomed you somehow." "I'm 32 years old, Derek. Not some naive kid." Rose squeezed my hand. "And you need to leave. This conversation is over. I loved you." "I know, and I cared about you. But love isn't enough when you're fundamentally mismatched." Her voice softened slightly. "You deserve someone who can be fully present with you. That was never going to be me." He stood there another moment, clearly wanting to say more, then turned and walked out. The door chimed behind him, too cheerful for the weight of what had just happened. Rose exhaled slowly. "I'm sorry you had to witness that." "Don't apologize." I pulled her into my arms. "You stood up for us. For yourself." "He's not wrong, though. About the age difference. People will talk. Let them." I tilted her chin up. "I spent 53 years caring what people thought. I'm done with that." She kissed me then, deep and claiming, and I tasted relief in it. Relief that she'd chosen honesty. That she'd defended what we had. That evening, Mrs. Chen invited us to dinner. The building repairs were nearly complete, and she'd been one of the first residents allowed back. Her apartment smelled of ginger and garlic when we arrived. Come," she said, ushering us inside. "Sit." Her table was small, set for 3. We sat while she brought out dumplings, noodles, vegetables prepared with the kind of care that comes from decades of practice. "So," she said once we'd all served ourselves, "how long you two been keeping your secret?" Rose and I exchanged glances. "It's not really a secret," I said. "No? You hold hands in hallway now that building is fixed?" Mrs. Chen's eyes twinkled. "You kiss in lobby for everyone to see?" "We're private," Rose offered. "Private is good. But hiding is different." She pointed her chopsticks at us. "I'm 82 years old. You know what I learned? Life too short to hide love. Especially love that real." "How do you know it's real?" I asked. "I see how you look at each other. How you rushed into fire for stranger, then found each other in chaos. She smiled. That's fate. Universe putting you together. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Mrs. Chen spoke again. My daughter, she marry woman, 20 years ago. Family very upset, very traditional. She set down her chopsticks, but I see how happy she is. How her wife looks at her like she's treasure, and I think, why should I care? Love is love. Rose reached for my hand under the table. Thank you for saying that. You thank me by being happy, by not hiding. Mrs. Chen pointed at both of us. You saved my life. Least I can do is tell you to live yours fully. That night, walking back to Rose's apartment under December stars, she stopped on the sidewalk and turned to me. Move in with me, she said. Not just because of the fire. Because I want you here. Permanently. I already said yes to that. I know. But I'm saying it officially now. With intention. She took both my hands. I love you, Mandy. I want to build a life with you. The kind where we don't hide, where we hold hands in hallways and kiss in lobbies. My throat tightened. I love you too, more than I thought possible at 53. So that's a yes? That's a hell yes. She kissed me right there on the rebuilt balcony under stars that had witnessed our building burn and our relationship rise from those ashes. Kissed me like she was making promises, like she meant to keep them. And for the first time in my life, I believed in forever. 6 months after the fire, I stood in our shared apartment surrounded by boxes of my herbs and her singing bowls, watching Rose arrange crystals on our bookshelf, our apartment, our life. The building had been fully restored, better than before. But we'd chosen to stay in her studio, making it ours instead of returning to separate spaces. My apothecary thrived. Her practice grew. We built something together from ashes and honesty. That one goes higher, I said, pointing to an amethyst cluster. Rose adjusted it, then turned to look at me. You're hovering. I'm helping. You're nervous. She crossed the room, took my hands. Talk to me. I'm 54 years old. I spent most of my life not knowing who I was. My voice caught. And now I'm standing here with you, and it feels too good. Like something's going to take it away. Nothing's taking this away. She pressed my palm to her heart. Feel that? It beats for you. Every single day. I know. It's just scary. I know. Her thumb stroked across my knuckles. You think I'm not terrified? I'm 32, just figuring out my life. In love with someone who has 20 years more experience than me. You're not scared of that. I'm scared of everything. Of losing you. Of not being enough. She smiled slightly. But I do it anyway because you're worth the fear. I pulled her close, breathing in her scent, lavender and something uniquely her. When did you get so wise? When you taught me that real love means choosing each other every day. That night, we christened our completed apartment properly. Rose lit candles while I opened wine, and we stood on the balcony watching Shreveport's lights flicker on. Remember the fire? She asked. Every day. Best thing that ever happened to us. I laughed. That's one perspective. Think about it. Without that fire, we'd still be dancing around each other, playing it safe. She turned to face me. Sometimes you need everything to burn down before you can build something real. Later, in our bedroom with moonlight streaming through windows, we made love slowly. I'd learned her body by now, knew exactly where to touch to make her gasp, how she liked to be held afterward. But tonight felt different, more weighted with meaning. When she settled against my chest, both of us breathing hard, she traced patterns on my skin. Marry me, she said quietly. I went still. What? I know it's fast. I know we're unconventional. She propped herself up to look at me, but I don't want to wait. I don't want to play by anyone else's timeline. Rose, I love you, you love me. Why waste time being cautious when we could be building something permanent? My heart was doing that wild hammering thing again. People will say you're too young, that I'm taking advantage. I don't care what people say. She kissed me softly. Do you want to marry me or not? I thought about 54 years of playing it safe. Of hiding from my own truth. of settling for comfortable instead of reaching for extraordinary. Then I thought about green eyes and patient hands, and a woman who'd shown me what it meant to really live. Yes, I said, 1,000 times yes. Her smile was incandescent. She kissed me deep and claiming, and we celebrated properly, learning each other again with the weight of that promise between us. Morning came with December's sun turning everything gold. Rose was already awake, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. What? I asked. Just memorizing this. You. Us. This moment. She touched my face. A year ago, I was trapped in a relationship that was slowly killing who I really was. Now I'm engaged to the love of my life. A year ago, I thought I knew exactly who I was, I countered. Turns out I was wrong. Were you? I considered that. No, I was incomplete. You didn't change me. You just helped me become whole. We got up eventually, made coffee, started our day. Rose had clients scheduled. I had inventory at the shop, normal mundane tasks that felt sacred because we were doing them together. Taylor showed up at the apothecary around noon, took one look at me, and grinned. She asked, didn't she? How did you know? Because you're glowing. And because Rose called me this morning to ask about ring sizes. Taylor hugged me hard. I'm happy for you, Amanda. You deserve this. I'm 54. So what? My aunt got married at 70. Love doesn't have an expiration date. She pulled back. Besides, Rose is good for you. She makes you brave. That evening, Rose played her singing bowls while I brewed tea in our kitchen, and through the window I watched Shreveport transform in twilight. The city looked exactly the same as it had a year ago, but my world had been completely remade. What are you thinking? Rose asked, appearing behind me. That I spent 53 years waiting for my life to start. I turned in her arms, and it finally did. With you. She kissed me, soft and sweet. Our life. Together. Together, I agreed. Outside, December stars emerged one by one, bearing witness to two women who'd found each other at exactly the right time, who'd built love from ashes and honesty and the courage to finally become who they were always meant to be. And standing in our kitchen with her arms around me, I understood that some stories don't end. They just begin again, better and truer than before. This was ours, and it was only getting started.